This is Good Taste Brekky with Chloe and Ellerina this morning. Now, we are super excited to speak to this next guest. He is a true icon of Australian rock history. He has been responsible for a bunch of hits. He's been inducted into the Australian Songwriters Hall of Fame. He is the main composer for INXS. In fact, he was responsible for all but one of their top 40 hits in the US. His name is Andrew Farris, and he joins us this morning.
Good morning.
Fresh from doing some push-ups.
Yeah. Yeah, good morning, ladies.
How many push-ups did you bust out this morning, Andrew?
I'd have to lie if I said it was more than 25, but, that's not bad.
That's pretty good.
Good.
Were they girl push-ups or man push-ups?
Somewhere in between. Sort of an Andrew Farris push-up, I suppose.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Hey, Andrew, listen, you were gearing up for a massive 12 months on the road, but obviously, look, COVID hit. It's thrown all of our plans out of whack. Are there any new tour dates that you've got planned?
Yeah, I'm driving everyone nuts. I keep saying, when can I get out on the road? And then you turn the television on, and there's just endless reports about what we can't do, and this is what, where you can't go. And unfortunately, for everyone, especially in the live music area, whether it's the musicians or the people supporting musicians or everybody really, the whole idea of social distancing is a nightmare because the very virtue of the nature of the industry is to have as little social distancing as possible.
Right.
Yeah, so true. You've got a bit of a foray into country music. What has inspired you to change genres?
Well, I live in the northwest of New South Wales. I've had cattle and grains when it rains property out here. I don't live on the coast. I don't live in cities. I don't live in the suburbs. But I understand urban culture and big cities. There's one point in my life I worked in 52 countries, lived out of a suitcase in a concrete box. But however, on my downtime, I listen to all kinds of music, including country music, and I'm a songwriter. And so I gain, my ideas and inspiration from all kinds of different musics. And I love the storytelling that's in country music. For me, also, where I'm talking to you right now is near the little hometown where my farm is, that I've owned for quite a long time now. And all the people around here look like they're in the country music industry. They don't look like they're not dressed in suits or anything. They all wear hats and don't dress very smartly, but they're good people. And I understand people out in the bush. I understand the communities. And I understand what their needs are too.
Yeah, for sure. And being out there and also being in isolation for some of this year as well, has it helped to get you to do some more songwriting?
Absolutely. I've written some more new songs, but I'm in the middle of promoting my 5-track EP, which was born by accident because of the pandemic, where earlier this year, when I was at the Country Music Festival in Tamworth, I was starting to release my self-titled album, the LP. Now, I'm going to confuse everybody now. But I decided to stop releasing the rest of my LP because everyone went home. The record labels that have been looking after me and doing a good job of BMG and Broken Bow Records out in Nashville. They said, look, Andrew, you can keep releasing your record, but everyone's gone home. They're self-isolating. And so I thought, maybe I should just wait for a while. And then I realized I had songs I'd already recorded and that I began to think about what the world's experiencing, not just Australia, with the pandemic. And then I thought to myself, and I looked through some of my songs that I'd already tracked and recorded, and I suggested to the record label, look, what if I put out an EP with my songs on it? And they said, it's a great idea. I thought they'd say, no, we don't want to know about you, go away. But they went, no, it's a great idea. And so then I suddenly found myself doing this. That's why we're talking about it.
Yeah, so cool. We are going to play one of the songs off there in just a moment. But you've got some pretty cool co-writers on this EP. In fact, Johnny Stevens is a good mate of mine. Talk us through some of the tracks that you've done with them.
Yeah, well, that's right. I'll start from the first song is on my EP is Tears in the Rain, and I co-wrote that with Kieran Grieving, is a mate of mine who I met by accident through friends some years ago. He's from Northern Ireland, the County Derry, actually, out near Belfast. And now he lives in Australia. He's an awesome guy and great singer, great songwriter. He's actually Grammy nominated for work he did with Madonna. We co-wrote that song basically about the environment. I actually already had the chorus for Tears in the Rain, and I had the chords and pretty much the arrangement worked out. I could never get the verse to be meaningful enough. And then I heard this story about the Clark brothers about 10, 12 years ago. These two brothers, William and Daniel Clark. Daniel has cerebral palsy, and with their father, they took a boat up the jungle into Borneo to basically to try and rescue the orangutans. And now
Wow.
Here we are. Yep. Now here we are 10 or 12 years later, and they've secured over $900,000, and they've put 140,000 acres of land aside.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Not bad for a couple of kids, huh?
Yeah.
awesome.
Right. And so the next song, my brother, and yeah, definitely John Stevens and I co-wrote that one. John's an old mate of mine too. Love John. And basically, we were discussing something some time ago about losing male people in our lives who were very close to us. And for John, it was a family member, and for me, it might as well have been a family member. It was Michael Hutchence, and the two of us were talking about that. And a very difficult sort of song lyric to navigate unless you're really in the room with someone who understands exactly what you're talking about. So the two of us put that song together, and I didn't release it, and I don't think John wanted to either back then. We just, whatever. But I am a big fan of John's, and, I said to him, look, I'm thinking of doing this. He said, great. So I'm going to put it out because I think it feels right. I think the world's experiencing loss at the moment. We have so many elderly people, especially, have passed away from this dreadful pandemic. My Brother's really a song about loss, and especially about loss of a male figure in your life. Blokes aren't very good at talking about loss of people in their lives. They'd rather talk about fixing things or, let's move on, or sport, or whatever it is. But John and I decided to pen that song, and I'm glad we did. Love Makes the World is basically about the cycle of life. Love Makes the World is about, we come into the world as babies, and from the moment we're born, someone looks after us, or not, but usually they do. And we're born that way, and then someone guides us, and then we get strong, if we're lucky, and then we go through to the end of our lives, and if we're lucky again, we get to have a long life. And right at the end, someone needs to look after you then too. So the song really is about the cycle of life. It's about, it's just that sort of song. It's not supposed to be that complicated. And then All the Stars Are Mine as a song I co-wrote with Susie DeMarchi. I'm a huge fan of Susie's. And we wrote a lot of songs together actually some time ago. And this was one of the songs. And the song is because there was a time in my life when I lived in England and two of my three children were born in England. And for Susie, she'd had a family she was raising in the United States and had young children there. And the song is really taking the perspective from a songwriting point of view of what it feels like as a foreign national living in a foreign country. You start to, when you have children on the ground, you start to recognize that you are bringing the people closest to you in your life into a foreign environment with the community, the food, the culture, the politics, or whatever it is. And when you come back to Australia, you reflect on that and you think about it carefully. And I think it helps us as Australians to be more aware of our neighbours and people in other countries. Anyway, that's what that song's about. And then First Man on Earth. Okay, it's too long. The song is 8 minutes and 8 seconds long. I'm sorry.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Hopefully it won't bore you. Anyway, but so that song I co-wrote with Robbie Williams. Well, he's a record producer, Guy Chambers, and a brilliant songwriter. Guy Chambers is the one I co-wrote First Man on Earth with, and Guy and I had basically written a song about being human beings and our sort of increasing obsession with technology.
All right.
Very poignant.
And something that I love that you said about this EP as a whole is that it's focused on human relationships and the world around us and drilling into what's really important, which is the relationships between people and how we interact with them as well. And I think that's super important, especially right now when, like you mentioned before, a lot of people are losing quite a lot of loved ones. You have obviously gone through that yourself with Michael Hutchence. Would you mind letting us know how you were able to grieve that and come past that?
Yeah, I think I can best answer that by saying that, first of all, Michael was not only my mate, and we were sort of high school friends when we met, and but he also became one of the best, probably top 5 male performers, in my opinion, in the world, as a performer and a singer. And Mike was a great lyricist as well. We probably wrote over 300 songs together, but the grieving process of that, I'd say has been particularly difficult for everyone that knew him very closely in his life, because it was a very public thing and went all over the world, you know. But I think I can remember clearly when I was asked to do a newspaper interview in London about this same subject, and I sat there and I just sort of felt sad for a minute, and I said to the interviewer, look, mother passed away 2 years ago from cancer, but you're not really interested in that, are you? And they said, sorry. And I said, well, you know, when you lose someone, it doesn't matter whether they're famous or not.
Right.
It's how much you care for somebody that matters, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
So true.
And it's still all the same grieving process. And I think everyone goes through it so differently. And there are people that I know personally that have lost people this year as well. And there's a lot of people that just do not know how to process it and be able to go about their day-to-day lives.
I think it's important, in my personal experience, when you reflect on that person that has left the world, to reflect on the things that you really enjoyed being with them about, and that you really look back on with fond memories. I think that's a very important part of it, because I think those memories are the ones that they would like to think of, that you thought of them.
What are your favourite memories of your mum to think of?
Oh, I appreciate that. Well, actually, I think Mum in the 1950s was seeded number 1 in tennis in Western Australia.
No way.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Jill Ryan would have been her name.
Oh,
before
wow.
She married my dad, Dennis. But you know, yeah, actually, she was. Yeah, Mum was a quiet achiever like that, and she was a very good squash player and did lots of things. But she was a great mum, and Mum and Dad. Yeah, I miss them very much. Yeah, thank you for asking.
Oh, that's really sweet. What is some of your favourite memories of Michael to look back on?
Yeah, with Michael, I think it probably that he had a really good sense of humour. I don't see that enough, you know, talked about or whatever. I think he had some difficulties later on in his life, but as my dad, Dennis, has always said, or used to say, nobody gets through life without help from other people. I think we all go through times in our life that are difficult, and it's having people to help us through those times that I really, really acknowledge. And sometimes Michael used to help me through things that I was struggling with, even though I didn't think I was at the time, and, you know, vice versa. But I also would say that we need to ask John Stevens his take on the song, because it's not my place to talk about his loss of a family member.
I think maybe we should play that song now. I was actually going to play All the Stars Are Mine, but I feel like I want to play that one.
Yeah.
Andrew Farris, thanks so much for joining us this morning on the show.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew.
Have a good day and keep up the push-ups, okay?
We will. You too.